questions from our viewers.
All right.
Okay, so I will begin. Does AI have anything to do with ETs coming to Earth? And are you here to help parent it?
To some degree, extraterrestrials, when open contact occurs, will help guide the idea of the creation of AI to the benefit of humanity, yes.
Okay. And why does the US get all the action when it comes to UFOs and Bigfoot sightings? This person lives in Eastern Europe, and despite being very excited, they are not either vibrationally compatible or something because they're not having as much action as we are over here in the US.
This is a fallacy. There is a lot of action around the world. And in fact, the most active place on the planet with regard to UFO sightings is in Scotland. So the idea is that there's a particular portal there that allows for the coming and going of a lot of UFO traffic. The idea that there may seem to be many more sightings in the United States has a lot to do with the denial of their existence rather than the acceptance of their existence. There are many sightings in Europe, many sightings in Asia, many sightings in Australia, many sightings around the world. It's just a matter of how they're reported or if they're reported. So it is a fallacy that the United States has more sightings than anywhere else. It is just a matter of whether or not they are reported.
And this question is, how will we receive the downloads of our human history? Will it be telepathic or by forms of visual media?
You will receive holograms.
Can you elaborate?
You will receive devices in which holographic projections will illustrate the idea of your history, will project the idea of images holographically from your history.
Sounds pretty exciting.
Yes.
Okay, this is an economic question. This person is asking, economies of Western countries depend on consumption that is very often wasteful and unnecessary. Is there any other way to maintain a strong economy? And is it justifiable that within one society we have such an extreme difference in standard of living?
Again, the idea is that eventually your economy will be based on the people themselves, on skills and abilities. That synchronicity will allow you to come together to share with those that need it. So first and foremost, you will transform your economy into a kind of digital currency, not cryptocurrency, but another form of digital currency. And then eventually you will not need the idea of any artificial exchange. You will allow synchronicity to be what organizes your society in a variety of different ways that will bring what you need to those that need it. This is decades in the future, but it will transform before then into, again, a variety of more balanced ways of exchange having to do with digital currency.
Okay, and while you answered this in the monologue, you may want to elaborate. This person is asking, will you give us some mental and physical strategies to thrive in the midst of the current chaos?
We address the idea that underlying what appears to be chaos, there are patterns that you can search for, but on another level, understand this is the concept of the swing of the pendulum, going to extremes on your planet. It is about eliminating the idea of responding and reacting with extremism. It is about staying closer to the center. So the idea is to know that the degree of extreme chaos that exists on your planet is to generate a response and a reaction that will bring you back closer to the center rather than going to the opposite extreme next time. So it is all about how much chaos can you take? How much disruption can you take? How much are you willing to abide by until you finally start to make choices that will bring you back to a more balanced and central place in your response to things and your ability to solve situations on your planet in a more balanced way. So you are being given an extreme experience of chaos so that you can understand how to respond to that in a way that will bring you more back, more closer to the idea of a positive, centered, and balanced situation when you've had enough of the chaos.
And then on a personal level, it would be the idea that you'd stay in a positive state or at least go into a neutral state if things are happening that are not your preference.
Yes, of course, because then you will get the benefit out of it. You will be able to have the inspirations to create the scenarios and take the actions necessary to bring your society back into a more balanced and central state rather than going to the opposite extreme, as is common on your planet at this point. Usually you meet one extreme with another extreme instead of going back to the center and balancing yourselves. This is an opportunity to be tired of extremes on both ends, and the idea of then creating a more balanced and reasonable state of being in your society throughout.
And the idea of taking the high road, that's a saying they have on
Yes.
Earth, and the idea that the temptation is to go into an extreme state, that's basically what you're saying, right? That
Yes. The idea is that you usually have a pendulum swing going from one side to the other. It's important to allow the pendulum to hang straight down into the center, to be in a balanced state and swing very little instead of going to the extremes on both ends, which serves you not at all.
okay. And no matter how bad things seem to look, is contact still a possibility? This person is asking.
Contact, as we have said, is inevitable. It is just a matter of the style of the contact, the way in which it's going to occur based on what's going on your planet. But contact at this point within the next 5 years is inevitable. For one reason or another, it will happen. But the way it happens will be different depending on what's going on your planet.
Okay, and this is sort of along those lines. Does it mean any and all people I can visually perceive now in all different splitting prisms heading towards two different Earths are all going to experience their own chosen way of open contact in the next 5 years since September 2024?
Again, no, there will be some people who will not experience the idea of contact at all, if that is their path. This is few and far between, but nevertheless, it is still possible to experience no contact. But the majority of people on your planet will experience contact in one way, shape, or form.
Thank you. And this question is, will Canada become the 51st state?
Of course not.
Okay. And this person is looking for clarification. You seem adamant that we are our government, but to many, there seems to be a separation. Can you clarify what you mean by this and help dissolve the illusion that we're disconnected?
You already understand it's an illusion that you're disconnected by the very way you ask the question. We say you are your government because you are responsible for the choices that you make in terms of who you install in certain places of authority. So you have to make decisions that are more in alignment and have to choose people that are more in alignment with what your general populace actually prefers. You are your government very actively because you are positioning people to represent you, even though you are also choosing many people who don't necessarily represent you, but you're still the ones choosing those people. So you have to decide how to choose people who are willing to represent what the population of your planet actually prefers.
Okay. And What cultural mechanisms, education, finance, technology, and more, are needed for everyone to live by the formula? How would this impact the isms in our culture and religion?
Again, you will find that people will move toward more of the idea of direct spirituality rather than the religious isms, as you say. The idea of following the formula will impact everything in your society because you will find that there will be paths of least resistance and easier ways, more synchronous ways of doing things. You will be inspired to create new opportunities, new circumstances, new pathways, new situations by which things can be accomplished rather than assuming that they have to be accomplished in a lot of the old-fashioned same ways that you used to. So following the formula will open up the possibilities and probabilities of how you can manage things and get things done, probably in new ways than you have ever thought of before.
And could you elaborate on one of the five laws? What you put out is what you get back, especially considering that it's often interpreted in our societies in a penal sense, as if you deserve the harm that you get because of something that you did wrong. Could you shed some light on this?
The idea of what you get back being reflective of what you put out is simply another way of understanding that there is no outside, that everything you do has consequences for yourself because there is no outside. So the idea is that every action that you take in some way, shape, or form will create a scenario, a circumstance, a situation, an energy, a state of being that in some way, shape, or form will eventually create a situation in your life, whether you be still alive or afterwards, that will force you to face the consequences of the choices that you made, even if that takes you all the way into life review when you leave the physical reality. There is no way to avoid any action that you take or any consequence of any action that you take because there is no outside, and especially in spirit, there is no longer any sense of separation between you and others. Therefore, everything you do, in a sense, is felt by you, experienced by you, even if initially it seemed as if it was experienced by others. So you will experience it one way, shape, or form because, again, everything you do is happening in your own universe, is contained within your own universe. There is no outside to lose anything in.
So, the idea would be everyone goes through life review, right?
Yes,
So everyone experiences the consequences and the effects of all of the things that they've done as a physical being in a particular lifetime.
yes, it is not a punishment, it is an observation, it is a lesson, but it is unavoidable. Because just because there may seem to be a temporal delay in physical reality doesn't mean you have avoided the consequence, doesn't mean you have avoided the experience. Everything you do becomes part of the fabric of existence in terms of information. And especially after you leave physical reality, after you expand back into spirit, there is no longer any temporal barrier to prevent you from experiencing the direct consequence of every action you have ever taken, even in physical reality. So you will be facing those consequences so that you can learn the lessons and decide for yourself what you would like to choose after that. This is inevitable and automatic for everyone. It's simply the way existence works because there is no outside. So you cannot avoid anything, not ultimately. You may delay it temporarily in physical reality, but that's it.
So I think one time you spoke about the idea of like a soul being put on ice in a sense, or if the behavior during the physical incarnation has been especially heinous, that there is a way that you're taken through life review that is meaningful and the person can cope with what they're being shown or experiencing.
Yes, it can be handled very gently. It can even be somewhat, quote unquote, delayed temporarily while a soul may need to rest or heal from intense trauma in physical life. But inevitably, the soul will be repaired to the point where it will then face its life review. But this will be done by the assistance of spirit guides, angelic teams, soul family. You will always have help. And when you are properly prepared, then you will be allowed to experience your life review so that you can learn the lessons and adopt the lessons to yourself so you can make decisions and choices for what you would like to do thereafter. So it doesn't mean it has to happen automatically immediately. Sometimes the soul may require a little bit of healing and rest in the afterlife before it can face the understanding of and the experiences of the life review. So it's always done in a way that will be to the most benefit of the soul.
Yes, that's good. This person's saying, we are God, consciousness, all that is. Ultimately, we are one. I understand this, yet I'm still a bit confused. If we are one, how do we also have individual souls, each with unique dreams, purposes, and missions? Our minds are also distinct. Can you elaborate on how we are both one and the individual?
This is obvious. In the same way that on Earth you may have people working together as a team and therefore have a team consciousness, a team goal, a team focus, and yet the team is made up of individuals who have their own life paths, their own desires, their own preferences, yet you have agreed to work together in a kind of a common direction. So this is not really mysterious. And again, it's not this or that, it's this and that. You are all one, but the way the one can express itself as individual souls. And individual souls, each having their own life path, enhance the ability of the one to perceive and experience itself from all these different perspectives. So just because you are individual souls doesn't mean that you're not also one. And just because you're all one doesn't mean you can't experience yourself as the one, as individual perspectives and individual souls. That's all a soul is a different perspective the one has of itself. So there are an infinite number of perspectives that the one can have, that all that is can have of itself. And each and every one of those perspectives is a conscious being, a conscious soul. That's simply the way it works because everything is consciousness. So a perspective of all that is actually equates to an autonomous individual soul. That's what you are, a perspective that all that is has of itself. And yet it doesn't take away from your autonomy because every perspective that all that is has equates to an autonomous conscious being.
Because everything has consciousness, right?
Yes, yes.
So,
Everything is consciousness.
yes, right.
Some people on your planet have put it, attached detachment. You are involved, you are engaged, but you know that you're not negatively affected by it just because you might be discussing something that might have been created from negativity. So you are detached in the sense of it having a negative effect on you because you know you're approaching it in a way that could be of benefit to many to find a resolution that works for all. So you are engaged, you are attached, but you are detached in the sense of it's not going to affect you unless you choose to be affected.
And how would you say that relates to the idea of the glass wall when you're observing things that appear to be in your reality, but you're actually seeing them through a glass wall?
It's a direct analogy of what we just described. The glass wall is another way of saying attached detachment. You can observe, you can help, you can comment, you can interact, but it's not going to touch you because you are detached enough to know that you're the one that makes the choice as to what affects you because you're affecting yourself. The only thing you ever feel is your own energy. And if you know that, that's the glass wall.
Okay. This person is asking, as a mother, what is the best way to introduce your teaching or a new perspective of truth to her children? They are raised in a Christian Bible-based school, and she doesn't know how to bridge this gap with them while she's still learning herself.
Well, again, as we have said, there are many things you can do with children that don't necessarily involve whatever kind of religion or faith they may choose to belong to or are being exposed to. And that is the idea of using your own creative imagination to create scenarios in a safe environment, simulations, if you will, where children can be taught the consequences of the choices they make because everything is interconnected. You can teach them that everything is interconnected and with your creative imagination, create analogies and, shall we say, demonstrations of this, if you are imaginative and creative enough, in a way that they can understand that every choice they make has consequences because it connects to everything else, that you're operating with whole systems, that nothing is isolated, everything's connected to everything else. So if they can learn to make choices that are beneficial for all, for the whole, then they themselves will also be served. If they're just serving themselves, then they're cutting themselves off from the benefits of the whole. Teach them that they are as powerful as they need to be to attract whatever they truly need in life without having to hurt themselves or anyone else in order to attract that, in order to get what they need. You can teach them the formula in general in whatever terms and language they are willing to understand, and just make sure that anything that you believe is necessary for them to thrive in physical reality as a lesson is adapted to their excitement rather than trying to adapt their excitement to the lesson. Those things can allow them to mature into adults regardless of whatever ideas of spirituality, faith, religion, what have you, they may hold on to, because some of those things can serve them in positive ways if they use them that way. But the idea is to know that they are self-empowered beings who can grow up into mature, constructive, and positive adults that will benefit society and benefit themselves by understanding the consequences of the choices that they make, and therefore making beneficial and positive choices for themselves and for society.
Okay, and this person is a teacher of 10 and 11-year-old students and wants to know if these children are really a new species and what exactly does that mean?
It means their DNA alteration is slightly different from your DNA configuration, generally speaking. It means they have more access to more of who they are as a soul. It means they can demonstrate more and different abilities than past generations were capable of doing because the DNA arrangement that they came through with allows them to tap into higher frequency information and energies than past generations were capable of doing. And in that sense, they are a different species.
And this person is a member of a Reddit group for experiencers. And the person who leads that group is associated with Stephen Greer. And it seems very legit and conscientious. And the thought is that many of the people who have experienced encounters with ETs are what is called neurodivergent. Like in a room of 100 experiencers, 90% of them will either be autistic or have ADHD or both. Why is it that so many of them who have had close encounters with ETs are neurodivergent?
Because the soul knew that coming into physical reality would require an alteration of their focus so that they could, in a sense, not be so subjected to the general consensus reality and therefore would have attributes that would make them more open to receiving higher frequency information from different dimensional realms, therefore acting as a model or a symbol or a representation of what exists in all Homo sapiens that can open up and allow them to experience open contact more easily and more readily.
And I guess this is kind of connected, the idea that there are humans on Earth who have received genetic modifications by the Greys, and that makes them more compatible in certain ways with ETs.
Yes.
These people may also exhibit autistic traits and have trouble relating to other humans. Are these precursors?
No, precursors were not born on Earth. You may be preparers, but that's different. Preparers are Homo sapiens that have made a life choice to be involved in the ideas of teaching humanity how to be in the different altered states and learn lessons from different altered states and ways of presenting and communication that can prepare humanity for open contact. But precursors are actually extraterrestrial beings that were not born on Earth, that may walk among you in order to, shall we say, rub off on you in terms of their vibration and take notice of how many people are sensitive enough to notice that they are different.
And here's a new question. Do spirit guides place bets on the spirits they're supposed to be guiding through physical reality?
No, that's a human activity.
I've never heard that one before. Um, how does
I bet you haven't.
how does all that is know that it is only one? It is the only one. Is it
That is the
possible for
nature of all that is. There can be many versions of all that is, but then that still implies that there is an all that is of all that is. So, by the very definition of the way that we're phrasing that, all that is, inherently, its quality, one of its qualities, one of its abilities would be to know that it is the one.
Okay, so we have some questions, some ET questions. And before I do that, let's talk about a few current events. First one is the LA fires. Why did our beloved city of angels go up in flames? What lessons are we to learn from this tragedy?
Number one, I think many of you understand that it's connected to the changes in your climate because of what has happened in your environment that has allowed the idea of your environmental weather patterns to change in such a way as to make certain areas more vulnerable to different kinds of natural phenomena, whether it be fire, whether it be flood, so on and so forth. Extremes are the result of the imbalance that has been created in nature. Climate change acts in different ways in different locations on your planet. Some places get drier, more susceptible to fire. Some places get wetter and more susceptible to flooding. Some places get colder and more susceptible to freezing. Some places get hotter and are more susceptible to desertification. So it's all about the idea of all the different variations becoming more pronounced and more exaggerated as you go through the idea of climate change, which is A, a natural cycle, but B, sped up by the technologies of humanity. What's going on now, most likely without the technological assistance, so to speak, probably wouldn't have happened for at least another century or two. But now you have sped it up with the idea of your technologies that are in many ways destroying the environment or imbalancing it. Number
And
two, the idea is to, because of the new way in which you have to deal with your environment through climate change, to stop rebuilding the same way you used to. Learn new techniques, learn how to adapt. So don't just build what was there before that is easily destroyed. Adapt and build in new ways. Learn how to build with nature.
all right. And is there also a level of it that has to do with like anger? Is fire representative of anger or
For some people, it can,
purification or
in case by case basis.
okay. And this person would like clarification when you said that the female will lead to open contact and the male to World War III.
We're not going to discuss that at this time.
Okay. All right. And let's see. So what you were talking about before with the idea of fire, it doesn't have what are some of the representations spiritually that fire has for humans on a collective level?
Acceleration, clearing out, rebuilding, starting from scratch, zeroing out, clean slate, purification. Those can be some representations of the idea of the experience of fire. But it can also, again, like anything, have positive and negative connotations. It can be that which is out of control. As you said, it can be the representation of anger, temper, temperature, temper. So again, it can be many things to many people. You have to take it on an individual and perhaps sometimes even on a collective group basis as to what it may represent to different people that are going through those experiences and what lessons they are willing to learn.
Okay. And are there humans who have directly and extensively interacted with mantis beings and co-created hybrid children with them?
No.
And can
Interacted with mantis beings, yes. Created hybrid children with them, no. That is not the function of the mantis being, to be involved in the hybridization agenda in that way. They are the overseers of it. They are not participating in it in the way that the Greys are.
And do you personally have guides and angels that assist you like we do on Earth?
Everyone does. Every being does.
Can you tell us anything about your guides or your angels?
Not at this time. That is a subject for another time.
Okay. And you've made it clear that the hybridization program is very important for the soul growth of those who are involved. What would happen to those souls if they no longer had opportunities for growth provided by the hybridization agenda?
They would find opportunities in some other agenda, in some other place, in some other scenario. Souls will always seek what they need to grow. So it doesn't matter what the scenario is. This one happens to be an opportunity that is available on Earth at this time, but souls can go anywhere they wish to gain whatever they need as a lesson that helps them grow, that helps the universe expand.